What's up, everyone? Alex here, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. I wanted to talk about a topic that I've brought up in the past, and that is neglecting the non-male side of my identity, particularly neglecting the neutral aspects of my identity, kind of in favor of malehood. I feel like the not male side of my bigender identity kind of gets pushed off to the side. So I wanted to kind of bring it back and talk about just how I want to recognize this other part of my identity. I talked about this in issue 33 of the YB3 zine. So it was like the second to last zine issue that went up on the Instagram before I just kind of disappeared. I didn't even make an announcement or anything like that. I just have not had the motivation to do anything zine related. But I talked about how I always viewed my bigender identity with so much separation, so much separation that I kind of forget, I'm a non-binary man, but then also like I've got this whole other part of me that I have been not paying as much attention to. I'm obviously mostly male. I've talked about that and how important malehood is to me. And I call myself a non-binary man or like a demi guy. Like the focus is on manhood so much, but I've been treating the aporagender aspect of my identity separate from myself instead of seeing it as one cohesive identity. So, I talked about like a while back, I talked about accommodating the different parts of my gender. The male side gets the he, him pronouns and the masculine presentation. And then at the time I called myself neutroy, and that was the queer side, and I used am, heirs pronouns, and I presented more queerly, more non-conforming, less masculine when accommodating that part of me. And I kind of split them into two different entities when there's always been some kind of large overlap between my identity, and I've recognized it before. I just like to forget that I have so many different aspects to my identity. Like, I don't need to see these things as separate selves or anything like that. It would be more useful to me to treat my bigender identity as a whole made up of different parts rather than trying to split it down the middle and trying to separate these two aspects that really cannot exist without each other. They're really like kind of intertwined in the center. I've also talked about dressing masculinely or presenting masculinely, but with like a layer of neutrality or like neutral leaning mask. And neutrality has always been seen as just kind of the coat of paint over my identity, something just other, something that doesn't tie itself into my identity as much, or at least is not recognized as being tied into my identity as much as it actually is. So I would say, I'm like, my presentation I call soft mask, and the soft is the neutral part, and then it's treated as like just something that tags along instead of its own whole identity by itself. So I just so much focus on malehood. The best way that I figured out how to recognize more of this neutral part of my identity was coining a term that perfectly encompassed this other side of me to give it more tangibility and to just, it was almost like a love letter to the not male part of me. I coined the term asterisque, meaning star-like. It calls back to Stellarian, a star-like identity that is unaligned or rejects alignment. And the focus is on it stands alone as its own identity. Maybe it's autonomous. It's not that it doesn't fit into any other category. It's just that it rejects the idea of alignment. It's not aligned with anything. It just is its own gender, and it is neutral. It is aporagender. So it is not male or female and nothing in between, but it still has a strongly felt sense of gender. And it is distinctly unambiguous and kind of provides like that softening aspect of my gender. So it's what makes my manhood demi-guy. It's what softens the masculinity that I present as. So neutral leaning, kind of a way to say a soft mask presentation or expression. And coining this term and talking about what it means to me kind of helped me bring the focus back to that aspect of me, because like I am bigender. I definitely have two distinct genders. I just kind of forget to talk about that other part of me. Like outside of online queer spaces, I am only a man. Sometimes I'll say I'm a non-binary man, but I don't talk a lot about being bigender outside of this space and what happens in this space, which also includes my work on the internet, on Discord or on Tumblr, Blue Sky as well, I suppose. I talk a little bit on there because it's my personal social media, similar to my Instagram, but I don't keep in contact with like coworkers or family or anything on Blue Sky. Yes, I'm very aware of Blue Sky's problems at the moment and Tumblr. They seem to both have the same problems, just being run by people who don't know what they're doing. Different thing altogether. Yeah, there's just like so much of this focus on my manhood and being a man and keeping the focus on manhood. It kind of like helps me in my day-to-day life. Like I can pass as a man, and there's no question. People know that I'm a guy, and there is no question of like my validity or anything like that. I call that privilege, but also nobody's questioning like there's no such thing as a man. What are you talking about? I don't have to deal with stuff like that. I don't have to explain why I'm a man or what manhood is supposed to mean. I just am a man. It's so normalized in society. So outside of the internet, the focus is on manhood because that's just like how my day-to-day life is. I'm not going to be out as bigender in the workplace. I've never worked for a deeply inclusive workspace like ever. There's always been some part of it where it's like, okay, this isn't the place for that. None of my like actual employment has anything to do with queerness. If I could get a job at like a support center or as like doing counseling or something that can be tied to queerness as a topic, as a concept, then sure, like I could be out as bigender, I can be out as non-binary, and that would be incredibly helpful to people who would need services like that. But I've never worked a job like that where I could be open about my non-binarity. So there's that aspect as well where I'm purposefully neglecting the abinary side of my gender because I just don't want to deal with the fallout of it. I guess the fallout, the discrimination, the weirdness of having to explain myself, and people questioning my sanity, my validity. It's bad enough that it happens online when the wrong people end up seeing my videos, because every so often my videos get pushed to the wrong audience. I don't know what happens. Just the algorithm's like, hey, I think everybody should see this one. And it always ends up a mess in my comments. So I have to like deal with that stuff. And that's a curated space where I can delete comments and just go about making more videos and nothing's gonna happen to me. But in person, it's a lot more complicated than that. So just with everything, all of that, just all of my attention has been on my manhood, and I need to learn how to be more openly not a man. There are not days where I don't feel like a man. That's also part of the complexity of this bigender experience. There's never a day that I don't feel like a man. It's just I'm a man, and sometimes I feel way more aporagender than I do male. Like, I don't know if the amount of maleness changes, but I definitely lean more one way than the other depending on the day, I suppose. I've never been able to quantify it. I can't sit here and be like, well, I feel, I don't know, maybe like 50% aporagender today, or like wake up and be like, most of my manhood is present at the moment. I don't know how to do that. Some people can. Some people know exactly how much gender they are experiencing. They like wake up in the morning and they're like, oh, I know today's going to be like a girl day. I'm going to present in a way that reflects that, and I'm going to use these pronouns, and I'm going to be viewed as a girl for the day. Or wake up and say like, I'm doing away with gender. Fuck that. I'm like, don't use any pronouns for me, or just use they, them pronouns for me. Don't use gendered terms at all. Like, I'm just here and my gender is gone today. I do not have that experience. That also is the struggle with, focusing more on being aporagender and not so much on on being a man. Whoa. Okay. On a man. That is the phrase of the day. Good golly, Miss Molly. All right. I can't even blame the coffee. I haven't had all my coffee yet. I think I'm just tired. I do have goals in mind. I want to use my neopronouns more often. AM airs. They grammatically and pronunciationally, not a word, they're like they, them pronouns, but without the TH. Pretty much. Like, that's how just grammatically they work and how they sound. But using my neopronouns a lot more often, being more open about, hey, these are my pronouns. Use them, please. Presenting in a more fluid way. For me, more between masculine and neutral. Every so often I'll dress more femininely, just kind of for fun, or at least I had kind of a phase like that, but it's not really for me. I still own a dress from like, I came out as a demi guy. I came out as a trans guy, and then just years later, I just wanted to buy a dress. So I bought a dress and wore it once and took photos in it just for fun, just to see like what I could do with that. I don't know if I'd ever go back to that, but going back to painting my nails or just anything like that, I would love to grow my hair out, but I've been having trouble doing that. So I keep cutting it. The ponytail has been gone for a while, but I wish I could have kept it because that was kind of fun. But femininity is not appealing to me as a way to present for myself. Like, I don't plan on presenting femininely, really, but like just experimenting with like not having to be so masculine. I'll always wear my binder. That's just going to be a thing forever. But everything else, just wearing whatever feels comfortable and not worrying about like, oh, I can't wear this. This is like a woman's cardigan. I can't wear this. I own a bunch of cardigans. They're from all sections of the store. I don't really care if something is meant for women. The only thing that I struggle with is that since I wear a binder and it like some shirts and some other like tops are meant for like they're cut a certain way. So it's a little harder to wear like they're like this, and then they come in kind of tight, and they've got really short sleeves sometimes, and that doesn't work when I'm wearing a binder, and it doesn't work with my overall body shape. So that's the only limitation I have. If I want to get something from the women's section, I have to make sure it actually like conforms to my body, I guess. Otherwise, like, it's not going to look right. So there's also that. Women's shoes also fit differently, I noticed. They're slimmer. Like, you can get wide width shoes in women's sizes, but, you know, I have small feet, and I'll get my work boots sometimes from the women's section. The Brahms brand boots, those are perfect for the kind of work that I do as like a chef, as a prep cook, just being on my feet and needing like a non-slip shoe. Typically like a waterproof kind of shoe. Like, that style of boot works perfectly for that kind of work. And I've noticed that the same style of shoe that I like would get in a men's, like if I get the like woman's equivalent to a men's size, it ends up like just feeling different, being slimmer. That's also strange to me. So just the practicality of women's clothing is the only thing that would stop me from like being able to like shop in those sections. Like, just sometimes sizes are weird, and sometimes just the shape of the garment is weird. Weird as in like does not fit my body. Even if it's the right size, it's not the right cut. So navigating that, whatever. We're getting off topic. But presenting more in a I don't really care kind of way would be great. And calling myself a gender or using non-binary labels more often for myself, I think might also help me keep focus on that aspect of me. More than just a man, just calling myself non-binary, which I had to learn over time. There always had to be some kind of qualifier. If I said that I was non-binary, I had to say I was a non-binary man. I had to make sure that the manhood was like still there and I was focusing on it. But I ended up learning over time how to call myself just non-binary sometimes. I'm non-binary. I'm part of the non-binary community. Just in a different way. Everybody has a different non-binary experience. It's such a vast group of identities, expressions, experiences, and it will change culturally too. Like, culturally, non-binary is going to mean something different for me than somebody else. So that, I don't even know where I was going with that, but that's also a thing. But yeah, just calling myself by non-binary labels more often, I think would be nice. When I'm accommodating my genders, which is a topic I said that I had covered in a video before, you know, I'm a man and the he, him pronouns accommodate that. I'm neutroy at the time, and am-ers pronouns accommodate that. I need to bring them back together. I need to smush them together and be like, hey, these aren't two entirely separate things. I'm not a human being that's split in half, and I have these two aspects, these gendered aspects of myself that are just separate entities. Like, these things are working together like any other aspect of my identity, whether it's alter humanity or autism or ADHD, I guess that's an aspect of my identity. Everything about me works together, and there's just these different parts that are working together, like clockwork. Like, I'm a clock, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just I need to stop neglecting the neutral aspect of my identity, which I've been telling myself forever, and then I still find myself going back to like focusing so much on the manhood and forgetting, you know, I'm bigender. That means that there's other things there besides being a man. So yeah, that's gonna do it. I am signing off for now. See you later.